Okay, seeing some really good stuff come in there. I'll give it a little bit more time. Just a few others who are thinking back through all of those modules. But what I'm seeing coming in is a really heartwarming in the sense that it assures me that people were picking up different things. Things were resonating with people. They were understanding different aspects of it. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, good. Let's jump to some slides and I'll pop up a few. And as I say, I think everything's good there. It's a nice little way to summarize the course, and then I'll match up your comments with any that match up with, as I say, a random 6 that I picked, not the most important 6 necessarily, just 6 that I wanted to chuck up there. Proactive versus the crash reduction factor being, the crash reduction study being reactive. Dynamic visual obstruction, masking, I think somebody said that in there. Bicycle friendly grates, somebody said that. Pedestrian desire lines, that was said. So it looks like I'll be giving away a lot of prizes here. I'll have to track back through the chat. Structure of road safety audit findings, so that formula that we've been working on, and it was really pleasing to see with the desktop assignments, so many people following that formula, that recipe for an audit finding, the severity of injury, the safe system tolerances, but everything I was seeing there in the chat, really good stuff. I suppose a couple of things I do want to just reiterate. I know some of you are very good with this and you understand it and you're happy with it, but a few other ones, a few things. This structuring of a road safety audit finding is important, I think, for new auditors to ensure that we cover off the key elements of a finding. So really do go back to that module 1, and sometimes you know, in your mind, it's so blindingly obvious what you're talking about. You know, you talk about a pedestrian crossing and that increases risk. Well, I still want you to actually say this increases the risk of a pedestrian being struck by a vehicle. Okay, it might be so obvious in your mind, but you know, some people reading it might not quite have the same clarity of understanding of that risk that you have. So that's, you know, one of the reasons for following that formula. So really just segment it out, state the issue, the actual crash, and you want to see that pedestrian struck by vehicle or a right turn against crash between passenger vehicles or something like that. Then risk factors, and we're talking about things like the prevailing speeds, the operating speeds, the fact that it'll be worse maybe at night, or the fact that there's a large number of heavy vehicles, or it seems to be a dominant turn, or those sorts of things. So, you know, adding a bit of, I suppose, flavour to that particular finding in terms of the risk and how you're going to weight it. And then referring to standards and guidelines, and we've been fairly, I suppose, relaxed on that with the, with the assignments, because we don't want people in their mind to associate road safety audits with that absolute check against standards and guidelines. But there were quite a number of audit findings that came in from people that do have documented standards and guidelines associated with them, which could simply have been reiterated there to give that finding more oomph. So that intersection wasn't meeting some particular standards and guidelines, things like stand-up angles for the slip lanes. And so you can simply state that, and it gives a clear finding there. Now, the reason we're not being very harsh on that in this course is, as I say, because it wouldn't matter if it did meet the standards and guidelines. If you still thought it was an issue, we're okay with that. and as you are expected to do as a road safety auditor. But as you get into, any of you who do take on road safety auditing further, you would be expected to have good knowledge of how this fits with a standard and guideline. It doesn't, as I say, I just keep reiterating this. If it doesn't meet a standard and guideline, yeah, you can document that. But if it does, you can still put it in as a road safety issue. Absolutely, if you are concerned with it. Okay. The other one, I suppose, just again, a little bit of clarity on, is around the primary and supporting. And some of you have done the Safe System Assessment course with myself, and we really sort of delve into that a lot. It's pretty hard to get your head around, though, sort of new to it. But I will just sort of reiterate an example. I think I did this already once, but I think to me, it's sort of one of the clear examples. I'm going to use these. I'm actually going to use these little things as an intersection, just because they're there. How's that going to work? Yeah, okay. Okay, so if we have a vehicle here and we've got, say, parked vehicles here or the like, and the audit concern is sight distance, and so you appropriately write that up using the formula, and you say, you know, the audit's concerned that the sight lines are impeded by the parked vehicles, even though the parked vehicles are only there part of the time. You know, this increases the risk of side impact crashes for vehicles exiting from the south. You know, this risk is enhanced by the operating speed of vehicles on the main road, the frequency of the use of parking, whatever it is, the Austroads guide. Yeah, well, there's some weird stuff around definitions of actual sightline impediments, and some documents talk about parking not being a sightline impediment because it's not permanently there. So you may want to document something around that, and you'd have to have a look at what New Zealand sort of says about that. You could just talk about what safe intersection sight distance would be for this, and that is within that, right? And then if your recommendation is to remove this parking, so ban parking from this up to where you've calculated safe intersection sight distance, say here, right? That is a supporting treatment, okay? Because there is definitely still a possibility for that crash to occur, isn't there? The side impact crash that you talked about, okay? It's less likely, but it's still going to be there, and it's still going to be at the same impact speed and the like. We've just lessened the chance of it because we've opened up the sideline. Yes, we've eliminated that particular issue that we put in there, but not the crash associated with that issue. So focus on that crash elimination or virtual elimination. So I hope that, reiterates it. Some of you are going, yep, I know that. You've explained that before, but it just, there's still quite a few people who are not getting the primary or supporting at this stage, but I'm sure you'll do very well in your actual audit. Now, I do have plenty of time in this session set aside to answer questions that you may have associated with the audit that you are currently undertaking, or anything that we've covered in the course. So really, the content of this course only lasts for an hour and a bit. And what we like to do is provide you some time at the end to get yourself back on track. A few of you are lagging a little behind. You've got busy lives and busy jobs and the like, so I can understand that. So we want to give you a little bit of time there to allocate to get your life back on track, or get your audit course back on track at least. but I do have plenty of time if you've got questions. Now, and if you have got questions or things that you're struggling with, odds on other people are going to be struggling with those as well, or they haven't encountered them yet. And if they go out and do audits in the future, they may encounter that sort of issue. So type them into the chat, or because it's just me, we don't have a facilitator behind the scenes today, feel free to put your hand up and you can just talk. We can just have a quick chat about the issue or anything that you would like to discuss associated with the course, or sort of road safety, auditing, engineering, and the like. So have a think about if there's anything you'd like there, and feel free to pop your hand up at any point or type it into the chat. I will keep monitoring the chat. Okay, great questions come in already into the Q&A, and thank you for that. Can you please give an example of primary as I'm struggling with this? That's a really good question. Thank you, and it further sort of goes on from what I just showed you, which is a supporting treatment. So what we do there, oh, I erased everything, that's okay. So if we go back to our little example of the intersection there, what we're saying is, how do we virtually eliminate death and serious injury associated with that crash? Okay. Now, if we're saying, I don't know, the speed we're thinking is 60 or so for vehicles coming in here, we know that that right angle crash, okay, has a general safe system tolerance speed of around 50 kilometers per hour. So what we'd be looking at is, can we get that down below 50 kilometers per hour in terms of operating speed? So if you were to say, oh, well, we'll just make the speed limit on this road 50, right? I'd say that's still supporting, because we know that people can and are likely to still go above that speed. However, if we were to do something physical to bring speeds down of these bullet vehicles to 50 or below, or we improve the angle of crashes a bit, that's when we are starting to get into the territory of primary treatments. So in this scenario, the primary treatments could be a raised platform, and assuming that you can use that to get speeds down to 50 or below, that's considered a primary treatment. So that would be one. Putting a roundabout in here would be a primary treatment as well, for this crash scenario, because we know that that's going to reduce speeds down, and it also improves the angle these crashes happen at. And you know, we don't need to get into the absolute design detail to ensure that, but generally the roundabout is a primary treatment in this scenario. So there's sort of two primary treatments. Of course, things like a grade separation, flyover, that would be a primary treatment at this level, you've eliminated it. Or at this intersection alone, blocking off that intersection from the ability to turn out like that, and making it so only a left turn out can happen. This one, I'd be sort of scratching my head at whether it would be supporting, primary or supporting. I know it's certainly going to improve road safety. We're good on that. The reason I'd question that is I'd say, okay, so we're going to have vehicles coming in. They're going to be angled a little bit, so we're going to get a better crash angle. But you know, are we within this tolerable limits? Certainly, if we had a nice long acceleration lane and we can get them up to speed, absolutely. Then we're into primary territory. The other one's a bit up for debate. Now, with something like that, you obviously could present a secondary crash risk. So if you block that off, they might just come out here and then, you know, do dodgy U-turns here. So we do think about that, but you know, you would call that a primary treatment for addressing that particular crash type. And as an auditor, you might note your concerns around the possibility of this. As they go about their redesign, their project changes and thinking about it, they take that into account as well. So I'll often do that as an auditor. I'll say, my recommendation is to, I've really sort of made a mess of the slide. Recommendation is that you you block off, you make this intersection left in, left out. Make the intersection left in, left out. And I'm not going to give them, specific details on how I think that should be done, because as auditors, we're not redesigning their project for them. We're just giving them an idea. I'd say, consider making the intersection left in, left out. However, further analysis should be undertaken into the alterations in travel patterns and the movements that will take place in order for vehicles to head east on this road, and ensuring that they can appropriately and safely make that move. Okay, so I haven't solved all their issues there. I'm just flagging them. Just be careful with that as you go about that. So just looking at another question here, does narrowing the road at a roundabout, is that primary? So narrowing the road at a roundabout, well, it's a bit scenario dependent, and you get in this interesting situation where when you are already within tolerable limits, there's a certain degree of ridiculousness in defining whether it's a primary or supporting, if that makes sense. So take, for example, we have a roundabout here, okay, already, and we're all, happy with, drive on the correct side of the road anyway, doesn't matter. We've got a roundabout here, and we're happy that for vehicle-to-vehicle crashes, that everything is within tolerable limits. However, we go, what, it'd be nice if they narrowed down the lanes a bit. We've got these wide lanes. We know where we're under that 50, but we're going to narrow it down a bit. We're going to narrow it down a bit. Is that a primary or a supporting? Well, you kind of go, well, it doesn't matter because it's within primary already, and we're just, adding, some icing on the cake here. So I would either write already within primary or something like that within the finding, or I might say supporting, because I know that line marking in general is a supporting treatment. Like, line marking has too much requirement on the driver being alert and compliant and the like, and seeing it. So we are putting too much reliance on driver behaviour utilising that treatment itself. But as I say, it really doesn't matter that much what you write in there, as long as you sort of talk about the fact that the crash you were concerned with was within tolerable limits. However, if you were talking about pedestrians crossing here, okay, and you are saying, well, actually, we think that the speeds of vehicles entering this roundabout are going to be, somewhere around the 40 or 50, and pedestrians crossing, that's above their tolerable limit of 30. So we want to bring speeds down there. So we're going to narrow the lanes. I'd say that narrowing the lanes in that scenario is supporting, because again, you're too reliant on drivers, following the rules essentially, because they could certainly straight line it over your line marking, no worries, if that's what they sort of want to do. However, if we put speed cushion back here, or we actually narrow the lanes using curb out stands, or as you probably call them, build outs, curb build outs, which is a term I really like. I'm going to use it more. Build outs, and narrow it down that way, then we might be in the scenario where we can talk about it as a primary. I hope that that helps and clarifies a little bit there. Another question's come in, and thank you. This is great. This is exactly what we wanted to use some time for, helping everybody clarify this. So, are there any examples of when signalising an intersection would be considered a primary treatment, or is this typically considered to be a supporting treatment? In general, signalisation is always a supporting treatment because, again, we're just too reliant on people being absolutely alert and seeing it, and we're not doing anything to bring speeds within tolerable levels, have any physical traffic calming or the like. The only point you could probably argue a set of traffic signals is primary would be if you already have everything within safe system tolerable limits. So it kind of doesn't matter. Again, if you've got this wonderfully like traffic managed, you've got speed calming along here and speed calming along here, and this intersection's currently stop, controlled, but we know speeds are down around the 30 or the 20 kilometers per hour, and you're talking about signalizing it in order to, maybe give a bit more pedestrian cyclist movement through there and a bit more safety from that perspective. I'm kind of okay for that to be called a primary, but again, it's kind of doesn't matter because we're within our tolerable thresholds. We're just trying to then enhance that. But generally, most of the time, almost all of the time when you say signalisation, it's a supporting treatment, unless it also comes along with a raised platform or a roundabout or speed calming or something physical to slow people down. Wonderful. Okay. Well, please do keep the questions coming in. And I'll run through a little bit of content now, and as I say, hopefully give you a little bit of time at the end to get a few things done. This final session, sort of the wrap up, where we talk about policy, accreditation, legal liability, and these wider things. And I will talk a little bit about some other jurisdictions, some Australian jurisdictions. I'll talk a little bit about what New Zealand's up to and what's coming in New Zealand, and sort of give you an idea of what you will be able to apply for in terms of accreditation and registration as road safety auditors in different jurisdictions. Yeah, I'll jump into that. So actually, maybe before I jump into that, I'll give you a little bit of info about what's coming in New Zealand. So you're currently operating under that 2013 guideline in terms of road safety auditing. Austroads has released the 2022 Part 6, so the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, Road Safety Auditing, and that's sort of significantly moved everybody forward with road safety auditing. And your current 2013 document sort of lags you behind a little bit. But there is a draft of guidance, which is with graphic designers at the moment. So it's on the final end that Waka Kotahi has prepared, which will sort of leapfrog the 2022 version of the Austroads Guide and put New Zealand, I would say, many years ahead of other Austroads jurisdictions. So you're going to have some significant changes coming. Now, one advantage you've got is that the content I took you through aligns pretty well with what is coming in terms of enhanced focus and understanding of things like primary and supporting, enhanced thinking about the energy of crashes associated with the biomechanics of the human body. So back to some of those graphs that we looked at, and side impact and 50 kilometers an hour, pedestrians 30 kilometers an hour, that sort of stuff. The only thing that you'll probably need to add to your skill set is a bit more understanding about safe system assessments, because New Zealand will be moving to a system which replaces the idea of road safety audits with a thing called safe system audits. And it is a combination of a road safety audit and a safe system assessment. So everything that you're doing now will be a big chunk of a safe system audit, and you'll follow the same process and you'll do the same stuff. The other component will be utilizing the safe system assessment matrix and documenting the risks that way, and providing that sort of quantified assessment of any options or against the existing conditions. Okay, so if you are somebody who actively plays in the space of road safety auditing, or you want to, or you're in an organization that does a lot of that, I'm giving you a little bit of advanced sort of info of what's coming. And if you've already done the safe system assessment course, you're going to be really well placed to be able to piece all this together and produce that report. If not, it's probably something you want to sign up for or dig into yourself, because Austroads does have, freely available information about safe system assessments and how they're done. And there's quite a number of New Zealanders that are very skilled at that now and out there doing really great work in safe system assessments, so you can get advice from them. So that's where it's sort of moving towards. I can't give you exact dates on when this gets released, but there will be templates available. So you'll get a lot of hand-holding and guidance through this. And as I say, the over half of these safe system audits are certainly exactly what we've covered and what you're out there doing. It's that additional part being the safe system assessment matrix. So when would you expect this to roll out? As I say, it's got to be fairly close. And as I understand, it will be released as a working draft document for a certain period of time to get feedback from the industry on how, whether it's working and things that can be altered. Yeah, okay, and we're just getting some requests for sending around a bit of info about the safe system assessment course, which we will circulate. Great. Okay, well, we're getting a good amount there. I think we've covered off the questions. So yeah, that'll be good. You'll be well placed then to slot into undertaking these safe system audits, and it'll be a transition period of a year, so you'll be able to continue just doing these exactly as they are, as you get your head around those little additions to it to make it a full safe system audit. Okay, so this module, this final module, is about knowing the different requirements of different jurisdictions for accreditation. So I want to point you at some registers of auditors that are available to New Zealanders. If you want to go down that track and add a qualification to your CV and the like, because New Zealand doesn't have anything that yourselves. There is no New Zealand register of road safety auditors, or you don't get it. You're not a ticketed auditor or a government registered auditor or anything like that. You're just if you have the appropriate skills and have completed a course, that's enough in New Zealand, and it's not documented anywhere as such. But I do want to talk about legal risks for auditors and those procuring audits, because I know some of you will probably be in the space of getting people to do audits for your projects. And so I just want to flag a few things there. So I'll start with those legal issues, and I have to put a disclaimer on this one to say that I am not a legal practitioner. I'm not providing you legal advice. I'm just pointing out a few things that could be legal issues, and of course get your own professional legal advice if you're, thinking about any of these issues. But really, I boiled it down to some simple stuff around what are the possible issues for auditors, what are the possible issues for those procuring audits, and I'll put here the possible issues for auditors. And that top one I've put is what we generally in the industry term a client-focused audit. So that is where things are watered down or not included based on ensuring the client saves money, saves time, saves something or the like. And it can be a real challenge because your client is often paying you, and I gave some examples throughout the course of this sort of stuff. It can be very it can be prevalent, or the threat of it is prevalent in the developer space especially. So just be aware of that. I did review at one point a few hundred road safety audits to try to identify clear demonstrations of client focused. I couldn't quite get anything that was absolutely like, I found a lot of stuff. I went, this is not good. Is this just bad auditing, or is this just a grey area? And they've really stretched where they go in the grey area. So it is not super clean in terms of where that line is drawn, but just be aware of it. Inadequate brief. So obviously you're not writing the brief, you're receiving the brief. But if you're not given the information that you require to do a comprehensive audit and you don't request it, it could be in a bit of trouble there. Now, if you request it and it's not provided, well, that's okay. I mean, you just note that within your audit and you make assumptions and you carry on. And, they might not provide it because they don't have it or they don't know it, or it's not been done yet, or whatever it is. So misleading qualifications and experience, I mean, that's across the board a legal issue for anybody in a professional space. Not following correct process. So day and nighttime inspections, visiting the site, and following your own quality processes. So the only reason you might not go to a site at night is if your client directs you that that's not part of the requirement, and it would be driven by the client, not you, to make that decision. If nothing is specified, you're expected to go there at night as per the different guidelines and the like. Not visiting the site, again, it would be very, very rare. Like almost never could you do a road safety audit where you don't visit the site. And I used to say absolutely never. The only reason I say very, very rare is that the 2022 version of the Austroads Guide has given a little bit of a potential not to visit a site for a early stage feasibility audit, again, at the client's direction. The reason for that is if it's a greenfield project, they may decide that at that early stage, they're okay for it not to happen. But it's very, very rare. And of course, your own quality processes. So that will be organisational specific. And then you're held to what the courts talk about as reasonable, a reasonable assessment, a reasonable job, that your peers and others would, issues your peers and others would find and the like. And that really can't be defined. It would play out in the legal system. So you're straight into it. There's no training wheels. I mean, there sort of are training wheels in the sense that you will be auditing with people who do have experience. So hopefully that'll all be covered in that sense. But, you're into the mix straight away. In terms of the road authority, so if you're the road authority or you're a developer or whatever organisation it is that engages a road safety auditor? Well, if you intentionally hold back information that could help them to do a comprehensive assessment, that could be an issue. So, if you've got swept paths that you look at and you go, oh, it's not good, we won't give that to the auditor. Okay, well, that's not it's not going to be helpful for anybody, and there's potential legal ramifications for that. So requesting recommendations is a no-no. You either way, like requesting things don't be put into audits. You have to respect the independence of the auditor and let them undertake their activities freely. Sure, you can provide them lots of information about different community concerns or others' concerns and these sorts of things, but it's up to them to decide. This is the auditors to decide whether that becomes a an issue and a recommendation or not. But yeah, when you're writing emails to auditors saying, please include this as a recommendation, and this is a recommendation, you've compromised the independence of the audit process. Then once you're receiving that report, the sort of duty to then consider the recommendations, either accept them, reject them, defer them. They are all legitimate things to do. Just document it and justify why you've gone down that track. And then it would be expected that there is a logical means of prioritization. Road safety audits help in the sense that there's risk ratings, so you should be able to prioritize those rectification works using the risk ratings. Obviously, cost will come into that as well. So yes, you might have a few high risk things which are going to cost more than you have in your budget to do, and you're going to have some lower risk things that are very cheap to do, and so you're sort of working that through. But even those high cost things, you're going to have to have a think about how you maybe defer those, how you do other things to manage that risk. As I say, I like auditors to try to assist projects and be understanding of budget limitations. And so try to help with a variety of options to lessen this risk. But really, something has to be done with all of these findings. Some lawyers in this space, they really call this one these two, the smoking gun that they look for when incidents happen on the road network. Because if they can find a road safety audit report that was issued to a road authority that asked for or suggested improvements to this area, which were not even looked at, not even responded to, that they just rub their hands together. So think about that aspect of it, and that's really important for local governments and for the National Road Authority to be thinking along those lines. And then just some sort of reasonable process, and that's a general one as well. They want to know that the process is reasonable, associated with when audits are done and why they're done and how all of this stuff occurs. So the interesting one for me associated with this is what I see a lot from local road controlling authorities, local governments and the like, is that I'll make a simple little example of it. We've got the road network and we've got two intersections and building a roundabout at this one and a roundabout at this one. And for some reason, we've decided these are two completely separate jobs, and this one gets project manager A, and this one gets project manager B. They're the same on the same road. They've got the same traffic volume. It's got everything's the same about it. They're going to cost the same, right? But this one gets a road safety audit, and this one does not. And it's The question is why? And it's a fair question to ask. And it can be all sorts of reasons. You know, this project manager knows about road safety audits or likes them, has heard of them, or somebody suggested it. And this project manager's never heard of them or the like. There's nothing documented. There's no reasoning behind it. And then, you know, again, it gives a little bit of that smoking gun for or it's, you know, people going, hang on here, why is there no road safety audit with the design and development of this roundabout? So what we did in the Austroads guide, the 2022 version, is put in the back a template road safety audit policy. Now, that's to just try and make it super easy for a local controlling authority to get something and have a policy in place. Okay, the policy could be just as simple as any project with capital investment over 2 million or whatever has at least one road safety audit undertaken, or above 5 million has 2, and you know, something just that everybody is consistent with. Of course, you've got to be careful then to ensure that people follow your policy, and because that's another potential issue. But yeah, I really encourage local governments to have some sort of simple policy and understanding of when they're going to do road safety audits on which jobs. Okay, let's see if anything's come in here. I'm just reading one here. So we got RSA has identified significant changes with the design, and the project team has budget constraints and could not accommodate what has been identified. However, their proposal would be a significant improvement then. Would it be up to the project team to go ahead with that? Will there be any legal implications? Okay, well, it's a fair point to bring up, and it's a good scenario because it does happen quite a lot. And this is where I think you would work with the audit team and say, you know, just have that open, transparent conversation with them about thanking them for their audit, their findings, and then the fact that it's agreed with, you know, if you agree with them, that's fine. And then explaining your budget constraints and asking if they could think of any other ways that we could reduce risk associated with that project, and you know, try to get them to assist with the thinking about other ways it could be done. Now, if there is nothing else there, you get into the point where you are genuinely concerned about the risks of a large new investment. So we might want to consider some redesign, some changes to that to lessen the risk. It's really not, it's very hard to give it exact, you know, that's in this category and that's in this category and that's in this category. The audit is an advice piece and it's trying to assist people in reducing risk. And we shouldn't think of it, I suppose, as more than that, as in, you know, stopping projects going ahead or not, but it does need to seriously be considered. And then, as I mentioned, if an audit comes in and it's there and it says this is an issue and this should be done, again, if you're not going to do what the auditor has recommended, then you really need to be justifying other things that are being done to lessen that risk within your available resources. So generally, courts are very understanding of lack of funds, okay? Like everybody understands that there's not unlimited money out there. What they don't like is where there's no process and no assessment of this and no documentation of this, the decisions around So you might get wild auditors that recommend, billion-dollar treatments. Well, you're not going to be able to do that, but you simply then would justify that and say, well, this is unachievable due to cost constraints. However, we acknowledge there is an issue there, and we've taken the following measures to lessen that risk. And you could even say based on the advice of somebody else, or the manager of the road safety unit, or the design manager, or whoever it is, as long as you reasonably think that that is a good approach to lessen that risk. Remember that auditors are problem finders, and there is New South Wales, for example, wouldn't even don't let auditors put recommendations in for exactly this reason. They go, they're not going to tell us, what to do. They don't know what our budgets are. They don't know what our constraints are. They don't know what the political commitments are. They don't know anything like that. So they can just find the issues and let us solve them. Now, I'm not a fan of that, because I think the auditors are great in terms of injecting ideas and road safety engineering knowledge and ways to lessen that risk. But I can see why they've done it from exactly this scenario perspective. So hopefully that sort of helps out a little bit. How are we going on time here? We will take our little stretch break, and as I say, we don't have a huge amount after that. But let's jump into accreditation. And so there are different accreditation systems around Australia. As I mentioned, New Zealand does not have an accreditation system for road safety auditors, but you can see Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, New South Wales has a system, Western Australia has a system, and it lists individuals. This is all about individuals being accredited as road safety auditors or senior road safety auditors, or in New South Wales, level 1, 2, or 3 road safety auditors, they refer to them as. So generally the requirements are you've got to have some experience in some of this: road design, traffic engineering, construction, or the like, road use behaviour. So it's pretty easy in Victoria, for example, to get in as a road safety auditor. Not looking for any amount of experience, just simply looking for the fact that you work within the general industry. Queensland's a bit more rigorous. They want to make sure you got 5 years. And South Australia's a bit like Victoria, but they swing it over to some different specifics they're interested in. Then to graduate up to that senior auditor status, in most jurisdictions, you need the years of professional experience, and you need to have done some audits and do those audits with senior road safety auditors, continue that mentoring and learning. So, as mentioned, most jurisdictions talk about a senior road safety auditor and a road safety auditor. The senior auditor then may be the lead of an audit. But that's sort of a cap that gets put onto them per audit, if that makes sense. So you might have 3 senior auditors in the audit team, and one of them just gets appointed the lead auditor. And in the jurisdictions of Queensland, Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales now, this course that you're about to successfully complete sort of gives you a tick in that requirement of completing a proved course. As I say, New Zealand doesn't have specific registers or anything like that, so completing a course is good, and then I suppose they will look at your general CV of if they're going to engage you as an auditor. So this course, some experience in road safety auditing. This is for Victoria. And senior, as I talked about, you've got to have experience and do some audits. So to register in Victoria, there's a website, vrsa.com.au. It is available to New Zealanders. There's nothing stopping you registering as a road safety auditor on the Victorian government's register of road safety auditors, if that's something that you would like. When you get to being asked to put an address in, a physical address, this is where there's just nothing in the drop-down menu for New Zealand. It sort of contains it to Australia. So you can simply put Safe System Solutions address, or if you have another address. Nothing ever gets posted, or like, I don't even know why it's in there. All right, but you're welcome to use Safe System Solutions address, or you just could put the Victorian government address in there. It's not going to matter. So this is the page, and the first thing that's on there is a disclaimer. The disclaimer says that there's a big list of auditors on here, and we can't guarantee any are any good. We can just guarantee that they have met specific requirements. You can continue, and then in you go, and you've got your ability to do some things, search for auditors, and then the first thing you're probably going to do is register for auditor accreditation, and you're going to register as a road safety auditor, unless you're doing this as some sort of refresher course and you've already been doing lots of audits and the like. But you're going to register as a road safety auditor. You're going to put in your details. You can hide from public anything you don't want publicly seen. And then after you've done all that and upload your certificate, you are able to sort of log in at different points and put in more information as you do audits and the like. So from a public perspective, if you haven't created your login and you're in the back end, you can search for auditors. So you can search for auditors by name, organisation, by the sort of expertise you want. Now, take that with a grain of salt because it's self-reported expertise. And I mean, most people seem to just tick all of them. I don't know whether they just want to not miss out on the opportunity to do audits or the like. And then you get this big list of auditors. And get their information. Most status is just, pending would be that they've just applied or the like. And you can click on then an auditor, and I think I've clicked on myself there. Active, and then you get some information, senior road safety auditor, contact details, bit of a CV if you like. You need to put that in there, but you don't need to show it to anybody, but so they know what your experience is. And as I said, to get entry level, you don't need. You just need to be working in the industry. To go up, to graduate up, you need to prove your 5 years at least. Audit expertise. Well, I've been doing road safety auditing a long time, and I've done many hundreds of road safety audits. But I still refuse to put worksite traffic management plans as an expertise, and I don't know what other is, so I didn't put that down there. But I have done quite a number of all of the others. And there's this regions available to work in, which is just in case somebody lived in a particular part of Victoria that they only wanted to work in that one region. But and that's, and then all the public's going to see in terms of the past audits, is this big list of where the audit was, what was your role, and when was it done, who was the client, and what stage, so feasibility or concept or the like, and was there a particular specific associated with that, and upload of your certificate, this course. So I suggest if you do want to get that official government stamped or I don't know, your CV or the like, that you register on that. It's pretty well held up around the world. The Victorian accreditation, certainly the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, and most countries around the world accept that as a as verification of your road safety auditability. So that's a good thing. South Australian one, I've just snipped this in. It's a similar process as well. You sort of download a Word document, you fill some stuff out, you upload it, and then a few months later they upload their PDF and you get on that. And yeah, you'll be able to have a look at that and see they've got their guidelines, and they note the difference between a road safety auditor and a heavy vehicle route assessor, which I think is important. That's a different beast again. And Queensland government, theirs is a sort of mix. They list all of theirs, but you still download a document, upload it, and the New South Wales one's a fairly interactive one where you need to log in and put your information in. So you've got lots available to you. As I say, the Victorian one's probably the easiest to get onto as a New Zealander. The others are options for you if you want to keep progressing that. But there's really no need to if you're just wanting to do road safety audits in New Zealand. Okay, so good point for us to have a break. I'm just going to check questions, and I think we're pretty good there. Oh, hang on a second. So how many courses do you do to have to become a road safety auditor? Well, just this course on the Victorian Register, and in New Zealand there is no specific guidance on that. Essentially, you have this certificate, although I believe that you would be within your right, without having successfully completed this course in New Zealand, to put yourself forward as a road safety auditor. I mean, people would probably question, how have you gained your skills? But maybe people gain skills from other ways rather than just doing a formalized course. But I think it's the cleanest and obvious is to just say, we've got a certificate of successful completion of the course. Good, okay. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then after 5 minutes, I'll come back and I'm just going to give you a small handful of final sort of live examples of some road safety concerns, and just run through a few just so you've got a bit more of an idea of how road safety auditors look at things, and then I'll give you plenty of time to get stuck into your assignments. So let's come back in 5 minutes. Okay. I'm going to get back into it. As I mentioned, I'm just going to show a few examples of issues and the like. I won't spend long on this, and then I'll show you how to finalize the course in the learning management system. But let me just jump to the slides here. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, so just a few examples here of different things identified. I suppose this one's a bit of an example of where the process has failed. This is a road where you're traveling along. It's an 80km/h road for quite a distance, about 10 kilometers of sort of windy road, and it comes in here, and you continue on. And looking ahead there, we can sort of see something off in the distance. We'll go a little bit further forward. Don't worry about that car. That's just where we parked then, just to get off the out of the way. So you can see here that, now you've got your overtaking opportunity. There's obviously something quite far down there that we're looking at. Speed sign there, which has been covered. Let's go a little bit further forward. And you can see there, yep, something off in the distance. And so we've got our overtaking opportunity. And let's go a little bit further forward. And okay, we've got a 60 sign, and we've got something coming up. And we'll go a little bit further forward. Okay, traffic hazard ahead. And we've got some sort of entry into this new subdivision area. And if we go up a little bit further, we can see the island here is, well, it's very new and it's been struck a lot. So that's interesting. And maybe we'll come back and have a look at night. Okay, oh, that's interesting. It's no lighting at all. Okay, so this is where we want to have a look and see, well, what's going on here? We'll jump back a little bit. Well, what we've got here is a new subdivision. Big, fairly large, well, medium-sized subdivision. And they're required to build a turn facility. And interestingly, their turn facility has some odd features about it. First of all, you certainly don't let people overtake on the approach to any physical islands like this. That's just a big no-no. Second of all, it's a bit hard to see here. That's a very abrupt sort of turn. And the thing is that we very much don't get the driver approaching this way to have to deviate. It's usually the driver from this direction coming to the back of the turn facility that we get to deviate out of their lane. Or sorry, not out of their lane, deviate from their straight line. So this is how this turn facility should look, and you can see that where we were approaching from that way doesn't really change their line, and this one should slow. Now you can deviate a little bit, but that abrupt turn was just very, very strange. Anyway, so a colleague and I stood out there scratching our head for quite a while to work out what on earth was going on here and why this had happened. And sort of discovered that we came to the realization that something's going on in the roadside here. They can't widen, or they don't want to widen into that area, and it's got to be, underground services or something like that. So it would be costly for them to widen to that side. The road authorities required them to build this facility, so somehow they've just flipped over the design and made it fit. without having to widen on this side. So they pushed all their widening to the side that they could. Now, okay, I mean, they've got that there. The process failure here is in the fact that this was never subject to any road safety auditing throughout its whole development cycle and approval cycle. So there's a lot of learnings out of that from a road authority perspective, and luckily nobody was killed or injured, badly injured as a result of this, and it was, had to be removed fairly quickly. So road safety auditing is that critical part. Now, do you traffic engineer and designer for the developer should have a sort of long, hard look at themselves as to why this happened. Now, maybe they were just, thought, oh, well, this should work. And that's where auditors can add value, obviously. Or maybe they ignored the potential implications of that, which I think would be a very bad thing. So getting those audits in, even in developer-funded works, as that assurance mechanism is really important. And I think it's a vivid example of where that should have been picked up very early in design stage and never been constructed. Interestingly, as a road safety auditor, and this was an audit that we were asked to do very urgently, as you can imagine. And then when we finally got our sort of head around what was going on, this wasn't an audit where we wrote up the report over the next 2 weeks and got all of our peer review checking done and polished everything up and then submitted it. I mean, we did do all of that, but it was some immediate phone calls to say, well, you need to do something quite quickly out here. Your traffic hazard ahead sign's probably insufficient, and so they were able to start to rectify things and lessen risk immediately, and then off it went. So questions coming in here. What size criteria of project would you suggest a road safety audit should occur, and how much would you expect a road safety audit for this subdivision to have cost? Yeah, it's a good question. So I think the road safety audit policy that's put into Austroads is pretty good guidance, and I certainly have written road safety audit policies for quite a number of jurisdictions and authorities and the like in my time, and you need to factor in growth and CPI and all of that. I mean, at a capital investment cost, 2 million in my mind warrants definitely a road safety audit, but under that cost is you do it on a sort of risk basis. Some jurisdictions go a lot lower than that, 500,000, which is okay. But for these developer-funded ones, I just think that you just include that in the development requirements that it's undertaken. How much would a road safety audit cost? Well, that is a real up in the air. I mean, generally, for a road safety audit of this, if at a design stage, you're talking about getting there, you're talking about reviewing the plans, writing up the report, looking at the site during the day and the night. You've got to factor in that whoever's auditing then starts to take on some risk themselves. So you've got to factor that in with, having appropriate insurances and all of that. So, I would say somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 to do the design stage road safety audit for this would be, what I'd be expecting. But it could be very different. It could be very different in New Zealand. It could be very different if there happens to be, a local consultancy that has road safety auditors that works out of that building. All sorts of other things. Anyway, think it's an interesting case study there. Another little thing again on that sort of human factors thinking around road safety auditing is the use where we use speed limit signs on the network. Speed limit signs provide a subtle subconscious clue to drivers that there's continuation of the road and they don't have to give way or anything like that. So this is just a confusing setup and I don't like it at all. There's some specifics around, you know, what the signage manual is for this jurisdiction, but I don't even think that any of that's needed as well. But like this sort of stuff to me is problematic, and I do look out for this sort of stuff as an auditor. The reason for that is that you are approaching the point where you're going to have to give way. You have to stop there. You can imagine if it's foggy, if the driver's, you know, not concentrating, they just see the speed signs. Everything there indicates that that road continues straight, and it's just going to add to the distance it takes them to realise that they're going to have to stop and give way there. So there's no need for that whatsoever. I mean, it's going to be changed speed zone as soon as they turn off that. So, yeah, it's just a thing to keep your eye out for. This is talking about end terminals and barrier systems, and I flagged this in module 1. I'm going to say it again here. If you're doing a job with barrier systems, you know, being implemented, you really need somebody who knows barrier systems. They are highly complex. They have a lot of specific requirements, and you need to understand what's appropriate, what's not, what are the risks, and it's huge. Now, some of you have probably done in-depth training courses in guardrail design or barrier design and understand that and keep up to date with it, but a lot of people don't, and it's very complex. So I won't go through that, but I mean, we see these sorts of end terminals where we know vaulting occurs, people hit that, they fly into the air. We know that's dangerous. We know the different breakaway cable terminals now present, excuse me, present spearing hazards. So those are well known that we don't use that sort of system anymore, but we still see it being put in. Of course, fishtails and these sorts of end terminals present that spearing hazard. Again, we see those across the world, unfortunately, and they really create that potential spearing. If a vehicle is to strike the end of the barrier system, that will spear through the vehicle, as we unfortunately see quite a bit. There's an example. Oh, that's a little bit of random traffic engineering trivia for you. This is in Colorado. I think it's Colorado, yeah. And they use milled out audio tactile edges rather than the usual blobs of paint on top. Why do they do that? Because the snow plows rip off those blobs during winter. So and then I asked them how they do RIPMs, like raised reflective pavement markers, and they showed me the snow plow friendly raised reflective pavement marker, which I thought was fascinating. Anyway, even the fact now that these like end terminal systems like an ET2000 here still doesn't meet the requirements that we have, and that's a fairly advanced system, and nor the X350. And we're into new products, and I'm only demonstrating this to show you the complexity and the fact that you need to be kept so up to date on this stuff. So get in your audit team people who know this. So what is that? It's an ETSS is that one, and then an SKT. That's a, these are different approved ones. Barrier height. Well, there's there I am checking barrier height. That's an issue. Connections, lengths, and you've got to work out. You've got to actually calculate your length of need. That is not going to meet length of need requirements. So I don't think you need a lot of sophisticated knowledge to know that's not going to meet length of need requirements. But there's others that are surprising. It's surprising how long a barrier needs to be in some locations to meet the requirements. I think that we've got to be conscious of the ability of road users to process information. Pick this photo out. It's in New South Wales, having a look at some speed camera sites. But yeah, I thought this is sort of, it's unreasonable to expect a driver to be able to process all that in the sort of couple of seconds they have to do that. So yeah, just have a think about that as you go. I don't think I'll cover too much more of that. I think we're at a good point now where I can just show you a couple of last things in the learning management system. Sorry. Get there. Oh. Sorry, bear with me. Okay. Okay, so you've got a few final things to do, and I'm going to give you some time to finish things off. But you need to ensure that you, actually, before I jump into that, research assignments. Once again, I reiterate the wonderful work you did. An email was sent out by Emma with some prize winners. As I say, many of you could have got prizes and didn't. I apologize for that, but those who did, congratulations. And you can go into the research assignments and have a look at the different assignments that others did, and some really entertaining stuff in there, some informative stuff, and some pretty cool bits of work. So thank you again to everybody for their work on that. So that's in there in the resources. And what you're going to need to do is make sure you've finished off everything. So all the quizzes, you're going to, have done your research topic, and that has to be marked. And you've got to get above 80% on that. You've got to do all those quizzes. You've got to do that audit finding one, which most of you have done, and have that marked. Do the quizzes. You're going to have to upload your road safety audit of the actual site. Remember, still only 3 findings for this one, but there's a little bit more to do on this one. And that one is due on the 31st. I wouldn't say the 31st. So make sure you complete that. You've got your template there, you've got your site there, and complete the any quizzes. Some of the quizzes may only have just one question, which is how many Wallies appeared. That's maybe just trying to ease the amount of workload you have at those different points in this course. And the final one here is one more quiz for this session. I put in there the Safe System Assessment Framework. And the reason I've done that, actually, I will just open that up, is that in here, if you are struggling to understand what is primary and what is supporting, this does list a whole lot of treatments in here. I'll find them pretty quick. Yeah, here we go. You've got table after table of sort of treatments that are primary treatments, and the green are primary here for different crash types. So this is for run-off road crashes, and they're all primary treatments in the green. The yellow and the orange are supporting treatments. And then you get it for different crash types, intersection crashes, and there's some there. So that's in there to try and help you, because I know some of you are having a little bit of a hard time at getting your head around that primary and supporting. So that might be extra information that helps you. Then, after you've done all your assignments, they've been marked, you get that over 80% for all the marked ones, you've finished all your quizzes, you need to finish this course feedback. You need to tell us how the course was, and then your certificate is released. So they're the final boxes that needed to be checked. Course feedback. So let us know anything that you really liked, or you think could be improved, or we should focus on a bit. Really always keen to try to keep improving this course. And then your certificate will release. Of course, if you're having trouble with any of that, get in contact with either myself if you want to talk about the technical aspects of it, or in contact with Emma if you're having trouble finding things or uploading, or want extensions or the like. I think that's about it. So I suppose I'll just take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedules to get involved in this. I want to thank Waka Kotahi for the support of this course, and recognising that capability capacity building in safe system, in Vision Zero, in road safety auditing is so important. And if we can get an army of people thinking about our community safety in the design and management and operation of our road network, we're really going to see some amazing gains. And so that's a wonderful commitment, yeah, certainly am envious that I'm not in a jurisdiction that has that level of investment and support, and others. Others are really envious of that. So wonderful work, and I suggest if you're not part of Waka Kotahi, you shoot them a note and thank them for that stuff. And as I mentioned, there are some other courses, and we're keen to continue building that knowledge. I want to keep in contact with you if you do have questions in the future, or you'd like to be pointed at different people with expertise in your area, or different projects that have been done. If you want to see example road safety audits on different things, please just keep in contact, and I'm very happy to provide you with whatever information I can. You will receive a hard copy of your certificate in the post with any prizes you've won along the way, and many of you have won prizes, and thank you for the wonderful interaction that you've provided during this course. So at that point, I think I will put this to a close. And yeah, wish you good luck with it all. You do have half an hour now blocked out in your calendar, so let's get a good bit of progress on this, on those assignments and quizzes. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.